somebody on the board to authorize the Public Utilities Board to demolish a building that is presently on property owned by the Public Utility Board that contains hazardous materials, and in order to comply with all state statutes, we need to employ people that are authorized to demolish buildings that contain hazardous materials like this.
Do I have a motion? So moved. Motion by Mr. Robles, second. Mr. Morales, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
There was no other action taken in executive session, Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we are going to go ahead and move up item number 12 to item number 6. And first item, Mr. Brucia, General Manager. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. Everybody stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Brucia.
Members of the board on the calendar, I want, Eddie Hernandez, we need to try to have a special meeting if we can on the smart metering. From now to the next meeting, Eddie will report on that if we want to get a consensus of the board, we can do that maybe next Thursday.
This was a special meeting.
For the smart, just on the smart metering, the AMI presentations.
We needed to,
All right, well, maybe we can pick a date.
So sometime next week.
Yeah, all week.
I'll be gone all week.
How about everybody, we'll poll the board members and.
Make sure you got a quorum, like today is.
Yeah.
But we want to do it next week, maybe?
we were hoping to have it next Thursday. We had it down to 2 vendors, and we wanted to have the vendors come in and do a presentation to the board. Also to have UtiliWorks, our consultants, do their presentation to the board to kind of bring you back, to refresh your memory and bring you back that, here's what we've done, here's where we are. And then ultimately, staff would, give you their thoughts. We're looking at about 45 minutes each for each vendor, half an hour to 45 minutes to do their presentation. So you're looking at about 2 hours to 2.5 hours in that neighborhood, in all honesty. So that's why we were thinking to do a special board meeting sometime next week in order to avoid piling it on a board meeting.
I don't have no problem with it, even though I'm very familiar with the project. And I wish I could be here, but, just make sure you got a quorum.
Right.
How about
I
the
support
rest of
the
the board
project.
members? Okay, okay, well, we'll shoot for next Thursday and hopefully have a forum.
In the afternoon also? Like an afternoon also?
Your wishes.
We can do 4:30 or before that, or
Okay. Try to do it earlier.
Okay.
We just need to poll the board members and see.
Okay, I'll check with Mr. Brusiak, and then we'll notify, because we need to notify the vendors as soon as possible, because they've kind of been on hold for a couple of
I'm
months.
flexible, so, okay, let's shoot. Next Thursday,
Thank you.
maybe just a Thursday. Okay.
okay. We're gonna hold off on the financial report and move item 4.
Item 4, it's a presentation by Jorge M. Garcia of GM Professional Service Corporation.
And I believe they're here for. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, board members. We are a local company here in Brownsville. First of all, I would like to discuss the thing that we are here to provide a service that will help the wastewater.
Or you need to talk louder on closer to the mic or something. I can barely hear you.
Thank you. As a local company here, we are providing their information about what we are doing. How can I just open the... Okay, thank you. I'm going to read our introduction there. It's based on the need to eliminate bad odors in your lift stations. Those odors are from the accumulation of H2S gases, which are generated basically by the extremely high levels of grease buildups, solid and liquid organics that leads H2S levels to increase in the well. And also we have to add sometimes the lack of good results of chemical. Chemicals are, we don't use chemicals, we only use biodegradable products, naturally bacterial products to eliminate those organics and bacteria that are present in your sewer lines and your lift stations. And once we eliminate the problem, that's why we decide here to present once again what we have, the service that we provide here to the city of Brownsville. Not only the benefits of good results, that we also are offering the most economical way to treat this problem for the city. These are our company objectives are to, first of all, as I told you, eliminate those H2S gases. Those are toxic gases, dangerous gases that are present in your sewer lines. You can smell those gases while you just drive on the street. We have a lot of problems here in the city. Eliminate grease buildups in the sewer lines and the lift stations, and avoid the recoagulation. That's very important because most of the time the city, the municipalities use the vector trucks just to push the grease, and that will recoagulate somewhere else, in a well, in a manhole, sewer line, lift station, or in your sewer treatment plant. That's a big problem there. Eliminate solid organics that is in the lift stations. That will increase the H2S levels, pollution, contamination there. We would like to provide a full service. We're a company here to provide a full service. Not only, we don't sell products, we provide a service where we show you our results. There's some existing cleaning methods to treat this. There's chemicals, solvents, foams. They're only going to reduce the problem. They will not destroy the origin of the problem. They just simply will mask it or move it from one place to another. Of course, those chemicals are very expensive. They are not safe, and most of the time they have low performance. Enzymes, which sometimes we can think that what we offer are enzymes. They are not enzymes, they are bacteria cultures. Enzymes are environmentally safe chemicals, but they are not bacteria, they're not biodegradable. Our bacteria, this is the only method that will cure your disease in the sewer system. It will reproduce and grow in the system, helping reduce the problem or eliminate the problem. Bacteria cultures, it's a small explanation here. When it plays in the sewer, the bacteria build up of a biological slime on the pipe wall, which is the same thing on the media of a trickling filter in a sewer treatment plant. Back in 2005, 6, and 2007, there was some odor complaints, and due to those odor complaints, Brownsville PUB decided at that time to run a pilot program that lasts for around 18 months, treating those lift stations, starting with lift station number 20, which is just next to the back of the Gladys Porter Zoo, and just in front of the federal court. There's still some problems there. Lift station 64, lift station 41. We treat lift station 65 on 802 next to Valero. In front of HEB, there's a lift station number 65. There was a big problem of H2S gases there, and a lot of all those medical doctors, dentists with office around the lift station, they were upset, and they asked for an immediate response from Brownsville PUB And we decided, PUB decided to hire us to treat that problem at that time. Those were levels of H2S from up to 619 parts per million before the use of our services. And those test results were measured by Brownsville PUB monitoring system. And after during the first week, we dropped the level of H2S with our services to have an average of 68 parts per million during the first week. And starting the second week, you could see there in that graphic that we had a maximum, not an average, but a maximum level of 80 parts per million during the second week using our services. And once again, those test results were measured by the PUB monitoring system. Over 90% of H2S odor disappeared, and there were elimination of grease buildups in just 10 days. You can see there, that curve represents our excellent performance after just the first week of our service. That's a graphic. It's a kind of a, well, you can see two bars. One is minimum and one is maximum, with a maximum of 1,000 parts per million. That's a lift station 8 at La Villita. Only 1,000 because our monitoring system at that time, it only read or measured up to 1,000. But we're over that. There was a level, those H2S level dropped considerably, but that was at the end when we were finishing our pilot program, and the Brownsville PUB just decided to discontinue the use of this treatment. This is what we want to offer. That's a lift station on the old Highway 77 next to Movie Stand. Brownsville PUB at that time decided to remove the chemical tank that was supplying the magnesium hydroxide because the pilot test, the pilot program that we run at that time made excellent results. We provide excellent results, so that's what we're trying to do, to offer a clean environment instead of this. This is kind of dangerous. That's a very expensive problem. We would like to offer, not to give you problems, but we would like to give you the results, give you some results. This is the same problem in another lift station. That's I don't remember the name of that school, but that's a BISD property. That's an environmental problem. We don't want lawsuits. We don't want anything like that for Brownsville PUB. Our children walk right there. We don't want to see that. We want to offer a clean environment, economical, and with the best results. We had some, Brownsville PUB also got some filtration system. I don't remember about that filtration system at that time, but just you remove that from lift station 64, decided to change from using chemicals and filters to using only our services. That's the lift stations without the tanks and without the filters, only with our products inside the lift station. Also, you need to ask yourself, what is the cost of using Brownsville PUB personnel, equipment, and time to work in the problems that a tank with electrical power could provide, or maybe a spill. These are some of our services advantages. We are eliminating grease buildup in lift station and sewer lines, including manholes. Reduce maintenance costs in pipelines, pumps from lift stations and manholes. No electricity bills. No need to use electrical power to work at all. Avoids corrosion on steel and concrete. Your lift stations are made of steel and concrete. Sometimes I think you're using right now fiberglass, not in all of them. There are reduction of solids, reduction of sludge, and considerably reduction of odors. Environmentally friendly, this is very, very important, that it's 100% biodegradable. We avoid the using of PUV heavy equipment, very expensive equipment, and we provide 24 hours per day H2S levels monitoring via internet. We want to offer for you to have a green lift station. I know that Brownsville PUV care about a green city. You can see it on the web page, in your web page. We would like to offer that, something that's biodegradable, and that you don't use tanks. There's no spills. You're going to have a nice view on your lift stations. Our community are not going to are not going to be aware of what you are using there. This is what we're talking about. This is how we monitor or make the H2S readings via internet. You can see it 24 hours a day. You can see how it works, how is it working, and if it's not working, so we can ask why it's not working, if we need to provide different type of amounts. Economical, in an economical way. We are here to help you, to reduce the budget. We are from the community of Brownsville. We live here. Our family lives here, and we pay taxes. And this is back in 2006 and 2007. There was a approved budget for over $485,000 a year, trading only lift stations, plus everything else like energy consumption, maintenance. There was pump repairs, cost for disposals, spills, environmental costs. Those costs, nobody imagined the cost of environmental, and PUV man hours. That's something that we don't know how much it will increase the investment. And back in 2010, it was increased the budget for $850,000, talking about 8 to 12 lift stations, plus the same cost. I think it will go over $1 million for sure. And if we talk about our comparison, talking about with us, you will invest around $600,000 to treat the whole system, this whole sewer system. That is 172 lift stations, 2 sewer treatment plants, and your sewer lines. Not only H2S, but also treating the grease in the sewer lines. No energy consumption, no maintenance, and no PUV man hours. You can make a comparison here. If we're talking about 8 lift stations, or 172 lift stations. 172 lift stations with a chemical, not only this chemical, but any chemical. We're talking about over $18 million a year. With us, we're talking about $660,000 a year. 27 years using our services will cost around $70 million. 27 years. That's a lot of time. And, well, you need to treat the whole thing. What PUB needs to do is to solve the problem by treating the entire sewer system from its source and not just covering the affected areas. By doing this, just covering the affected areas, you are only wasting your time and money, because the problem will never, never disappear. These are certificates from our company, from our products, and the certificate of quality. Those are certificate of quality, of manufacture, and contract packaging. Not only packaging, but the manufacture of what we do, plus the service that we provide. And as a local company, we're here 24 hours a day for you, saving you money, offering you best results, and we don't have to travel to take care of something that we're offering. We don't want to sell a product. If we sell a product, you will have some problems. We're here to solve the problem. we care about the town that we live, and that we know that you have very expensive projects here in the near future, and we would like to, saving money for that. It's something that we would like to do. Again, we already did for a period of 18 months. Those results were excellent results. We have proof of that. We have proof of those results, and those results were not taken only by us, but were taken by your professional staff. If you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia, for the presentation. Are there any questions from the board?
Do you have any lab tests on the project?
Yes, we have, actually, we have two. We have our, every lot that we provide will come with a toxicity test from its origin, from the manufacturer. And we have an external lab that provide a toxicity test that says that it's not toxic, using it in like it's supposed to be used, not just if we take care of how we use it. That's why we offer to do it ourselves. It's not toxic at all. We take the precautions. It's proven. We offer with our service. With our service, we offer also to provide lab tests each month, not for the product, but for the water. We can provide the product lab test, but also for the water that is already going out to discharge to the river. So we will take care of that offering. That's in that cost that will come with the lab test, so you can be sure that it's not a toxic product that we are offering. It's biodegradable. It's no, you won't have no problems at all. There's no such thing as a toxic thing. Besides, everything that is in a lift station is extremely toxic. So these are just bacteria, but it's our formula. We are the sole source of this formula, and you can, well, we need to see how can we compare what we have, what we offer. So again, another question.
There's no further questions. Thank you very much for the presentation, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, gentlemen.
There's no action required on this item. We'll go to item number 5. Consideration and possible action on the use of bacteria culture biotubes in the Brownsville Public Utility Board wastewater system.
We need some direction of the board if you'd like us to look at this product, see how it fit in there into our system. Need some direction from the board on what you've heard tonight. Direct us to look at that. We don't have any experience with it other than what he said. I don't have any experience with it to give you a recommendation right now, but what are the wishes of the board?
What were the, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
What were the results of the pilot? I mean, in those different settings, I mean, was it something that?
Or somehow the results never got up to management. It's kind of stayed at the staff level and never got conveyed up to management, is what the audit report said. So I was never even aware that the product was tested or our senior management. For some reason, it never got to us. So
Well,
it stopped.
so you don't, like the numbers they gave, they look pretty promising, is that?
I just haven't never seen it, so I don't know what, I don't think they're.
And currently, what we do have is that we're operating under the master plan that the board in 1999 authorized a study to do a master plan for odor control. So when we did find out that the staff was introducing biocubes into the system, we said that was not the authorized method for odor control. Now, if the board decides you want us to look into that, there's ways. You got to study the whole picture. I mean, it's not just taking one part of it. You need to look at how it's going to impact the entire system. That it works or it doesn't work. I certainly would love to be more intimately involved and check the data, ask the type of questions that you know that I ask all the time, to make certain that this thing would be vetted, no matter where you went, you could repeat the results. So if you wanted to try that, I would be very engaged in the process that's used for testing it to make sure that it passes my muster.
I'm amazed at what I'm hearing here. We had a pilot program that we ran here for PB for 18 months, and the answer did not get well. And I'm amazed that I saw a letter from a consultant that opposed this service and did not sign the letter. But yet all the test results from the water department showed that it was doing its job. Now, I think we would be remiss not to recognize or have not looked into it, management did not look into it. There was plenty of time to look into it, find out what happened in 18 months over the past month before we came to this meeting. And they didn't do it, well, I don't know why, but I mean, the cost, as you saw, 950,000 versus 600,000, 650,000. When you look at 8 lift stations that are treating, and if you go around the city, there's a lot of stinky areas. Go by Movies 10, go by the zoo, you pass by there and it smells, I mean, all this is here. So apparently, we're not treating the problem. Here, they have a history with PUB for 18 months that it worked, and the cost of 950,000 for 8 lift stations compared to 600 or 650,000, whatever they said, for 172 lift stations and 2 sewer plants, to me dictates that we approve the service, unless somebody can tell me this is unsafe. Approve that kind of service, because that's what we're here to do, to protect the taxpayers' money, make sure they get the highest return. And if it worked 18 months, I don't see what the difference would be if you use it now. They use it 18 months. If there was some risk, I think that would come out then, or if there was some failure, it should have come out then, or if there was some reason why not to use it, I think it should have come out then. 18 months is long enough to have a pilot program.
Is there any other direction for that on board?
Well, I mean, the big factor here is really, what I look at is the cost. And the sole source product, it has worked for 18 months, and I think we should definitely consider it as a priority item.
I do have something to suggest to you that you take under consideration. We do have an enforcement action on the south plant, so it's important to make sure that we don't upset the plant again, because we do have an enforcement action against the plant. And also, we've got the design of the Robindale plant going on right now, and it's being designed based on the flows going into the plant.
Being decided, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I said, we're under a design build right now for the Robindale rehab and expansion, so it's important to make sure that if you're gonna test it, we at least allow the design of the plant to continue with whatever the stream is that they're looking at to design around. But, you know, I mean, you're the board, your wishes are what we're going to implement, just like we were implementing the wishes of the board from 1999, so if you wish for us to do something different, then let me know.
How would that affect the flow of, educate me a little bit here?
What the product, the vendor has said that it does, that it cleans up the lift stations, and it does. It's got like a soap action, and it takes off all the oil and grease and sends it down the system. So it gets to our plant, and it gets to our plant in slugs, and it will do that for a period of time. It'll get to our plant in slugs till the system cleans itself out, and this bacteria forms a new film within the pipes. So I don't know what that's going to be, and I don't know that you know what that's going to be, but we need to be careful to keep that in mind. You need to keep that in mind. If you're making this decision, you keep it in mind that there may be an impact to the plant when all this gets cleaned out. It's got to go somewhere, and the only somewhere that it is that it's going is into the plants. So when it gets to the plant, the loading on the plants, that they call the BOD, will increase. So-
Have we run other pilots like this with other biologics or anything like this? No. Okay, so this may not be the only biological solution out there to be able to accomplish the same end, I mean, because we're talking about chemicals, we're talking about.
I don't know who else makes these or not.
We haven't put a solicitation out there to try to find out who else is out there and who else can provide a similar type service.
I think we should allow them to respond.
What your concern is very simple. It will not, you have grease, either or not you use our product. That grease will go to your sewer system.
Correct.
And that will go to your sewer treatment plant. But it will go, with us, will go pre-treated. So you're gonna have way much less problems. You're gonna have your problems solved. You're gonna have your grease, you're gonna receive only maybe 30% of your grease. But it will, our product will destroy the grease.
That's why it's called biodegradable.
Yeah, but the bacteria will eat the grease. The enzyme that is produced naturally by the bacteria, it's not a chemical enzyme, that will break the grease in pieces. The bacteria will eat the grease.
So that will help us with flushing it out and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
transporting the sludge.
yeah, absolutely. You're gonna have,
It'll save wear and tear on the equipment.
You don't have to send the trucks, the vacuum trucks, because eventually,
No, I'm talking about the lift stations and the plant, it will save wear and tear on the mechanical parts of it.
you would say the bombs and everything. At least.
What I'm referring to is that if you go in and you treat the entire system all at once, you're gonna get a slug of everything coming through. And that's what I'm trying to caution you about, is if you go whole hog and go and treat the entire system will begin to clean itself out.
Okay, why don't we do this?
That's what I wanna make you aware of.
Yeah, that's fine. We're only doing 8 stations right now, is that right?
They're not doing any, they're not treating any.
No. Under magnesium, we're only doing 8
Oh,
stations.
under magnesium.
Is that correct? Is that right, Gigi?
Excuse me, we are doing that on more lift stations, I think it's like 13 lift stations.
Okay.
But one of the things I want to clear right now is, we have a representative right now from Premier Chemicals that can answer some of the questions as far as the chemicals, because I think some of the things that were said on the presentation are not correct, and they can clear that. Another thing on the pilot, I know we're talking about breaking the grease at the lift stations, and yes, he broke the grease at the lift stations. But what we don't know from the pilot is what did it do throughout the system or at the plants. At one time, while we were going through the pilot, there was a big slug of grease that we had at one of the plants, and we don't know what caused it. And that's when we found out about the pilot, and we stopped the pilot at the time.
That could be caused by white grease that people you throw in the.
It was grease, yeah, it was grease. We don't know what caused it, but that's when we stopped the pilot at the time to make sure that we were okay with the plant and that we were not upsetting the plant. That's why the pilot.
was that?
It was at the south plant.
Okay, we only treat the north side plant, the Robindale. We never.
Well, according to the information I have, we have some lift stations that go to the south plant. But what I wanted to mention was the fact that we have a vendor from Premier Magnesia here, in case you have any questions on the information that was given.
My concern is this, we have 8 stations we're treating. Why don't we try, if that's your concern, John? Let's try just treating those things to 8 stations. You know, see how it responds before we introduce them to the all.
Or try some of the ones we're not.
Huh?
Try some of the ones that we aren't treating.
No,
that
I
have
think we
those
should treat the ones that we are using right now.
Well, they're being treated right now.
Yeah, but you're using a more expensive,
Yeah, I don't,
that's not working because we still have the odor.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not only the expense, it's a process that's different.
yeah, it's working at those stations, it's the other ones that
It's
are
the other
having
one.
problems.
Oh,
The
you're
ones we're
saying-
Putting it in and working.
You're saying put it at another
Yeah, I mean,
13.
putting it where we got some real bad problems and let's test it. You know, give us a chance to look at it and see if that's.
We have here all the results, all for pilot test for the lift station 64, where PUB removed the tank that time. Therefore, took readings, H2S reading for H2 every day.
The tank was removed because the product was working.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so the tank became obsolete because you don't need the tank with your product.
We're saving a lot of money, and it was like a no need to use it anymore.
And you don't need the tank, you don't need the personnel, you need the vehicles.
I think we should do like what John was saying, is treat some lift stations that we're not treating, the ones that we're having big problems with. Like, I don't know, another 8 lift stations.
I think we need to.
And there may be, other products similar to this that you might want to test out as well for the efficacy of each one.
And
one
if
against
that's
the
the
other.
case, I would agree. So we have chemical products right now that we're using. We experimented with biologic, right? Why not look at, expanding that pilot, taking it from the 8, and seeing what the impact would be, system-wide, and maybe using different types of biologics that end up arriving at that same, just let's expand the pilot a little bit more, so we have a better understanding of the impact system-wide and all the way up to the Robidels.
Oscar, what
And
about this?
it is a very complex.
We have two systems, okay, we have south side, north side. Raymond was just telling me, why don't we just split up? Let them do the north side, let the other one do the south side. That way you have a fair comparison.
The south side is under an enforcement act, so I mean, if you're gonna do it that way, the north plant would be better. Because I don't wanna.
How many lift stations are in the north? Or
May I suggest something? Right now, most of the lift stations that are treated by BioGuard are on the north side. So I would suggest, I know we're under enforcement on the south side, but if we're gonna be doing that, divide up the two systems and maybe have this, BioCubes at the south plant and then have the BioGuard at the north side. And I know we're under enforcement and we're gonna have to take that into account. But if anything happens at the north plant or at the south plant, we'll know what might be causing it. If we mix it, we won't know what caused it, whether it was a combination of both or one or the other. So if we're gonna try the pilot, I would suggest let's divide up the system and figure out, but it's gonna have to take a little while to get the ThioGuard from whatever lift stations we have on the south side before we can put in the BioFoods on some of the lift stations.
Is there any negative effect because we're under enforcement in changing?
Well, it could upset the plan, and if we upset the plan and we're under enforcement, yes, it could create problems
When you
with
said
the state.
we can upset the plan, what do you mean? Is there more
Take it out
cost involved
out of his
or
permit.
to fix it or what?
No, we have certain, numbers that we have a permit and we have certain requirements that we need to meet. And when we say we upset the plan is we get off the numbers for the permit and then we're already under enforcement and we could create more problems for PED. We would not be meeting the permit, in other words.
What you're saying is if we tried the BioGuard, we should do it with the north plant,
No, the south.
the south plant.
How many lift stations are in the south plant?
Yes. The other, the south plant, we have about 173 lift stations total. It's about half and half. But one of the things that was not mentioned as far as the ThioGuard is it doesn't only take care of odor problems, it also helps with the pH, with the alkalinity, and down the line, it helps with the treatment of the plant, which helps with the meeting of the permitting. And I don't
So that's
think.
good.
Yes, but that's the ThioGuard. And I don't think the BioCubes do that. They do take care of the odor and that they break the bacteria. I'm not sure you mentioned the corrosion, but I
Yeah, we
don't
mentioned
know what it
corrosion.
does to the pH. And what happens with the pH levels, if it raises the pH levels, it affects the treatment of the plant and it does affect the permitting.
Well, never affected during the 18 months. It never affected, you should know that because you have a lot of person out there in the lab and the Robindale plant, so it never happened that.
But
So
it really wasn't applied in the level that you're talking about. It was a small pilot, so it's hard to tell whether it did or didn't because the percentage of application isn't significant enough to say that caused it or this caused it.
Well, we put it-
Wait a second. So then I think the best solution is, okay, let them take over the south side side and monitor extremely closely how this, service the impact on the system, monitor very closely, and provide reports to the board. Don't wait till 6 months later, 18 months later to tell us, what the problems are. We want to know as we go along, the good and the negative. But not only on this one, but on the other one also. Okay?
And,
Okay, but I also want this. I want a cost analysis to where they're going, so much per lift station, or so much per, the south plant, the cost to treat it, compared to the conventional method you're using, including the manpower that you're using to use the magnesium.
Are you suggesting in your 600,000 that you will have your staff go and drop cubes in there?
of course, that's what we do.
Monitor.
And we monitor, we provide our monthly report.
So how much would it be without you doing that? Without you?
We don't do
your
that.
staff?
We don't do that. We did it one time. We don't sell products. We provide a service. We provide a service because we want to know that you have the right choice. We want to know that you are spending your budget the right way in this matter. We don't sell product. One time it happened. We sold just the product, and the person was just hanging out the lift station as a deodorant block. It's not that. It's like we need to provide the service, a full service, 24-hour monitoring service, so we can provide you. If we are going to do some business with Brownsville PUB, we would like to make a fair business, and just charge what.
I think it's better, Fernando, because we're not using, for $600,000 compared to $950,000 for just 8 or 13 lift stations, okay? Plus the manpower, plus the equipment, the insurance, and all that stuff, that's extremely high compared to what they're offering.
I understand, but I think you would be upset if I just didn't ask that question. I'm gonna try to find
And-
some way to make it.
and,
They're providing the service, they're providing the service.
And you have references for other cities. The city of Boston is using it, so we have good references about that. We have small
Do you have
towns
any-
using it. We have,
Specifically, do you have any references for cities our size that are coastal? Because the problem in Boston is not the problem here.
no, I know, and
You
I know it's
understand that
everything.
Geography is different. our
It's
terrain is
different, it's different waters,
Different water,
here
everybody-
is different from Harlingen. But what I'm talking about is that we are talking a different formula depending on each sewer. But every sewer system has a lot of grease, and Brownsville has I know, I think the highest level of H2S in the nation are here. And that we did a good job treating your system, and that we study your city, you study your lift station plans, and that we make the right plan how to treat it. If we use,
I think that in order for it to be a good enough test, is just, if you're gonna jump in, okay? And jump in on one of the plants, and you're saying that our north plant has more problems, go get after it.
and actually, we just, the pilot test, the pilot program that time included, it was the Robindale plant was included in the pilot program, without any problems in the plant. We had around 10 or 15 pounds per month, and we monitor every day, and we never had any problems.
Excuse me, I'm gonna have to wrap this up because we have a lot of other items, and we just need to go ahead and give direction to management on what the board wants to do as far as the biodegradable process versus what we're using right now. So I guess most of the board members had expressed that you consider this and look into it, and then come up with a plan, and then report back to us.
Can we make a motion on it?
Well, that's the direction that they needed.
No, you, the chairman, has to entertain motions or open it up, because it's an action item.
Well, this is, the board will determine a recommendation. And so the recommendation is if somebody wants to make a motion.
What's the number?
Mr. Sherman, I just want to add that if we proceed with looking into it, and if we have any procurement process needs that we need to comply with, we'll get legal counsel to guide us on that as well.
think
like
that
it.
that's I think that that's the direction, because we've heard that there's a different process, and from what I understand from management, is that you all had looked at this process, there was a test pilot, but for some reason, certain things didn't work out, and now you have to take it into consideration again, and then put it into an action plan, and then bring it up to us, so that way it includes Mr. Garcia's company as part of this whole process.
Well-
But I think to make a
Make sure we
decision right
satisfy
now,
procurement.
based on just a presentation, without hearing the whole plan, because we're not making, looking at the big picture. Any other?
My only comment was then, do we need then to go through kind of the RFP process to be able to then have ultimately, because, I know we're dealing with kind of the public dollars, right? So we have to go through the process of actually fielding this out as a test, or say half of a system-wide test, and then having multiple players come in here, test their products, and then identify the ones that actually do the best. I'm sure we have, like Mr. Garcia was saying, that we have procurement policies that would, it's not just a one, it worked out well in this pilot project, and congratulations to these gentlemen, because they actually proved that they did well here. So I think it then needs to go to that next level, so that we can further study it, study the other impacts on the system, and then move this along and see how this can be beneficial to the system overall.
I'd like to say something here. I think Fernando mentioned that it's very important right now. We're going to design build for the Brownsville plant. And we're considering using different systems to see if we can work better and which was going to affect the design build. This is early enough right now where we can do a pilot based on what Gigi told us here, that would be for the north side. And I'd like to make a motion that we do that.
You're making a motion that we divide the system, and they do the north side, and the other one do the south side. That's your motion, right?
There's a motion.
I'll second.
There's a second.
We need to bring back a proposal to the board. I don't know what the costs are, or what we're getting into, so you ought to direct me to bring something back to the next meeting with that motion.
Okay, the motion is to approve then and to work out a cost, for us to.
Okay, so,
And procedural, I would say too.
Oh, it's a procedural matter.
okay, so there's a motion, there's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
Aye. Pass. Thank you. So I guess you'll come back, you'll sit down with them and identify the lift stations and what it would cost to do with lift stations, and then bring it. It'll be more of an informative, report.
Well, we need a contract.
I mean, you won't that out, you won't that out.
But you're gonna have to prove it.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, well, definitely.
Okay, we're gonna move, item number 12 up, and, item number 12 is consideration approval of the selection of records management consultant for the Brownsville PUD Records Management Program.
Chairman, members of the board, the request for a proposals process for records management consulting services was initiated with an advertisement of the invitation to submit proposals. The legal notice and invitation for sealed proposals was advertised in the Brownsville Herald on July the 18th and July 25th, 2010. The Brownsville PB Purchasing Department acknowledged the proposals on August 6, 2010. The records management consultant will provide advisement and assist the PUB staff in conducting a records inventory, appraisal, and scheduling of paper records throughout the company. This will form the basis to update the records control schedule and to develop a system-wide uniform filing system. At this time, Brownsville PUB is requesting approval for the initial phase of the project, the records management needs analysis. Upon completion of the needs analysis, the findings and recommendations will be presented to the board. The PUB staff plans to conduct the project in phases. Upon completion of each phase, the results will be presented to the board, and the staff will request approval for the next phase of the project. Therefore, the board will be kept informed of the progress throughout the project. The PUB Selection Review Committee recommends the top 3 respondents for interview by the board. The top 3 respondents are CRM and Associates Incorporated, Emerge Consulting Incorporated, and Records Consulting Incorporated. The presentation by each firm will be limited to 10 minutes. The order of the presentation was determined through a drawing. The ranking developed by the Selection Review Committee is provided for board consideration. At this time, I'd also like to introduce the PUB Records Manager, Nancy Theo.
Good evening, Governor, members of the board. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with the interviews, and the first firm is CRM and Associates. There's a-
Good evening, board members. My name's Eric Tanner with Pat Weiss and Associates, a Houston-based company. And I want to tell you, as a 10-year school board member, familiar with long agendas and long meeting nights, I'll be as brief as possible. And also, we're talking about a whole lot less money than we were in the last presentation. So very quickly wanted to get to, as we were directed, Pat Weiss and Associates was formed more than 30 years ago to provide effective and affordable records management consulting to a wide variety of public and private organizations. The last slide will show you a series of logos from some of our clients. We have multiple certified records managers on staff. What that means is we are 3, in our case, of about 800 CRMs worldwide who are certified through education, training, examination, and then we have to continue to get continuing education units to remain certified. Over time, our processes and services that we provide, and by the way, we do not sell any hardware or software. We are purely a consulting firm. We do contract records and information management services for companies in Houston where we actually operate their records management programs. We recently started a program where we provide shredding services to clients in the Houston area as well. And we also do a broad spectrum of records and information management consulting. Most recently, we've been working with the Denver International Airport to help them select a content management system as they get ready to expand the airport after it's been open for 15 years. Our principal consultants, the reason they sent me is because I'm probably going to be the point person and be the one who spends most of the time on site here working with Brownsville PUB staff, and particularly Ms. Teo. And unfortunately, the 3 of us have probably more than a century of experience, so I didn't really want to address that. We also have systems analysts and programmers on our staff, and the size of the organization ensures sufficient resources available to Brownsville PUB that we could get the project done on schedule as specified and to meet your objectives. And our staff knowledge and experience is sufficient to resolve any issues that the records management program may have. Again, I said we provide record center services. We also have provided close working relationship with the Texas State Library and working with a number of public entities to do retention schedule work, because I know that's one of the follow-on phases to this initial study. We've also been involved in assisting clients as they transition from paper-based records keeping to electronic records keeping, which I'm sure, as you all know, that's a very important thing going on at the present time. And we also provide training for successful program implementation and administration. And I think that's one of the key things that we're talking about in this first phase of the project, is to work with Ms. Teo and have her involved in each aspect of the assessment and coming up with recommendations, because that will help bring her along, enhance her records management skills, and make her a valuable player as we get ready to implement phases 2, 3, and 4. And we would look forward to working with you in each one of those phases as well. Similar projects we were asked to talk about. I just finished a project in the past about 15 months with the Port of Corpus Christi Authority, where we did retention schedules throughout the entire organization. We also built the infrastructure in terms of policy and detailed operating procedures, as well as they had a document scanning and imaging system that wasn't working. We took a look at that and actually sat down and worked with the vendor. And when we walked in there, POCCA was ready to throw the vendor out. And we actually got the vendor to work with Port of Corpus Christi Authority to do additional training, and they're now expanding that system. And they did that at much lower cost than throwing out and getting a new system. As I mentioned, Denver International Airport. We also have broad utility experience. I did a project a couple of years ago with the Colorado River Municipal Water District that's headquartered in Big Spring. And also we've done a project with the Public Utility Commission of Texas. So we have extensive background in electric generation and transmission, retail, water and wastewater treatment, gas transmission, you name it, and we've done it in terms of utility expertise. Our capabilities include program assessments and strategic planning, which is exactly what we're talking about here for the first phase, paper and electronic file system design and implementation, records retention scheduling, very important. Once you know what you have, it's important to determine then how long it has to be kept in order to be compliant with law and regulation, to make sure that your program supports your operations in the event of litigations or enforcement action. We're involved in technology, imaging, enterprise content management systems, selection and implementation. And again, we don't sell hardware or software, so we feel that we are free to work with you to help you come up with selections and solutions that meet your needs. We also provide training, curriculum development, and delivery, and we conduct periodic quality audits to ensure that the program, once it's set up and running, remains compliant and continues to support your business objectives. The project that we're talking about here is to conduct an assessment and gap analysis of the current records and information management program at Brownsville PUB, and from that to develop a 5-year plan for records and information management. We're talking about 3 different aspects in the original assessment. The first is compliance, where we look at those foundation documents, charter, policies, procedures, retention schedules, all of the things you have in place for your record system currently, to make sure, again, that the program is compliant with law and regulation, supports investigation, supports audits. We also look at retrieval. Who is using the information, both inside the Public Utility Board and outside? Who is sharing information? Is the same information being filed in multiple locations? Because that's not very cost effective. We try to find out where the information is sourced, where it goes, who looks at it, how they use it, and why, and come up with recommendations for improvements in that regard. And then the last thing that we look at here is program structure. Where should the records management program fit within the organization at Brownsville Public Utility Board? What are the responsibilities and the roles for each one of the participants? What kind of staffing is required? What kind of training is required for those staff members? What kind of communication? Because not everybody was hired to do records management. We know that. So what we talk about when we start putting solutions in place is things that will allow people to run a compliant system, but not have to think about it a lot. Because that's what the responsibility of Ms. Teo is going to be. She's going to be administering the program. We want to provide her with the tools and resources to be able to do that. We will work closely with Ms. Teo and you throughout the project, and we want to enhance her skills and knowledge. We want to involve appropriate staff because it's your records, it's your systems. We're not here to come impose anything on you. We want to know what you're doing, what problems you're having, because with our knowledge and experience and knowing what the industry standards are, or what are called best practices, then we can assess what's going on right now against best practices, and from that develop guidelines and strategies that help you get from where you are now to where you determine you want to be in the next 2, 3, 5 years. And another important aspect of working with Pat Weiss and Associates is we have open communication during the project. There's no gotchas, there's no surprises. We keep you and management informed at every step of the way, so you know exactly where we are. 1 minute? Good, works out. This is, I went out last week and downloaded some logos. These are organizations that we have done records management, technology, and other services for. Dallas-Fort Worth Airport Board, Public Utility Commission, Tri-State Generation and Transmission, it's a co-op based in Colorado, City of College Station, Kinder Morgan's a gas transmission company, Northeast Utilities, the people that brought me here today, Southwest Airlines, Clark County, Nevada, and the Port of Corpus Christi. And I thank you for your time and look forward to working with you, Ms. Teo, and the rest of the employees at Brownsville PUB. Thank you very much.
How long do we have to keep these records, John?
It depends. It depends.
What's maximum?
Well, the maximum in some cases is permanent.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like right now, personnel records are permanent. Anything, the meetings, the minutes from this meeting tonight will have to be kept permanent. Other records can be kept as little as a year. Other records, the Texas State Library uses a term called AV, which is administratively valuable, which means you can look at it and decide if it doesn't have any value, you can get rid of it then. But it depends on the content of the information it determines how long the retention is. Some retentions are written into federal or state law, other retentions are not. They're just user defined. So
You'll be here for a lifetime. Maybe shelf, but you'll be there.
yeah, and you know, it's really easy. A lot of people like to use the term permanent because what they really mean is until I'm no longer in this place and I don't care what happens. The problem is permanent means until the universe grows cold and dark and there's nobody left to look at it anyway. And so I've been beating on the state library for years to try to pinch some of those down a little bit. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Very good presentation.
Evening, gentlemen. I'm Greg Hughes with Emerge Consulting, and I guess we're the second. I've got 22 slides, so that'll take about 27 seconds each. Okay, we've been in business since 1993. We're incorporated in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We basically have 17 consultants on staff, 8 partners, 8 principals, 1 consultant, and then we're associated with the 11 other associated consultants that we call in on a project-by-project basis. So what that means is we have depth in the organization as far for all aspects of records and content management. We embrace a virtual mode of operation, meaning we all live in different cities. We staff projects based upon the needs of the particular projects and bring the right resources to the right project. This is our technology and application focus. The emphasis here is enterprise content management and records management. We've been in dealing strictly with these types of technologies and applications for the life of the company. This stuff we focus on and nothing else. We don't sell hardware, we don't sell software, we don't integrate systems, we're pure consultants. We know the records business. We speak regularly at AIM and ARMA, are the conferences that are pertinent to this technologies. We do training for electronic records management using the AIM courses. We're a certified AIM trainer. Most of our personnel hold some certifications from AIM in electronic records management, and we have several certified records managers on staff. We understand the fundamental changes of records management, going from traditional paper-based records to enterprise records for all paper and electronic records as well. The services we provide, essentially needs analysis, and that's what we're talking about here. We're looking down the road for records classifications and records inventories, records management policies and procedures, and reviewing that kind of materials. ERM and electronic content management training, and then program and project planning and management. Like I spoke before, we do teach the AIM, ERM, and ECM certificate workshops. We've trained about 500 people over the last couple of years in ERM. We do a lot of publications in association with in this industry, both in content management and records management publications, and we do speak at a lot of the seminars and do presentations at the AIM and the ARMA conferences. The associations that we're part of, ARMA is the Records Management Association that really drives the records process for the U.S. The clients that we've been involved with, a lot of government, 17 counties, 19 cities and towns, a bunch of utilities and communications companies that all have processes similar to the Utilities Board. Basically, planning, engineering, design, construction, maintenance activities, as well as customer-facing processes dealing with your end-user customers. So our organization, there is no hierarchy other than the corporate officers that are required by law. All of our projects are run on using this standard methodology, starting with a plan and management process, discovery, and analyze the discovered information, document the results, and then go through a review and revise process to deliver the final deliverables. Our understanding is that this is the initial assessment and requirements planning project, and then the subsequent projects might include the records inventory, records appraisal, updating your schedules, implementing changes to the current program, developing and implementing a system-wide unified filing system, and it's likely that we may identify some other things that you should probably do as a result of the assessment. The initial scope, though, is to basically do an assessment, develop requirements, and develop a phased roadmap for further deployment of your records management program. Current records management state, basically this is discovery activities where we will take a look at all of your existing policies and procedures and handbooks, your control schedules, review your existing practices through surveys and interviews of the records management group and selected department personnel. Analyze that information against best practices. ISO International Standard 15489 is the records management standard, international records management standard. And we'll also assess the utility board's practices against the GARP, the generally accepted record-keeping principles that have been adopted by AIM and the maturity model that's been developed for that. And that'll address, look at policies and procedures and look at requirements and gaps in your program, classification effectiveness, security issues, and overall program effectiveness and the monitoring and training that's done to ensure the program is in compliance. This is a little, just something on those pictures of what those standards are. So the major deliverable out of this basically would be the requirements, the current state assessment, and the requirements for further development, a roadmap, and then phased work plan, timetable, and cost estimates for the deployment of the new records management program. I would be the project manager. I've got 30 years of project management experience. I came from an IT background. The last 15 years I've been focused on electronic content management, records management, document management, workflow, those kinds of technologies that we focus on. Past project, I did a project with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, obviously relates pretty closely to what you're doing. And then a couple of departments of transportation that have very similar processes, only it's roads instead of pipes and sewer lines. I've done a project with the City of Arlington 2 years ago, City of San Jose last year, and a bunch of other cities and counties. So I'm very familiar with all the aspects of cities and counties and utility board types of activities. Charmaine Brooks would be the primary records management consultant. She's been working most recently with Pierce County Public Works and Utilities, Puget Sound Energy, and she recently completed a project with the Texas Association of Counties where she got very embedded in the Texas records management requirements. Not bad. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
He was the first company that did it. Sierra.
That's all right, I'll wait on you. Thank you. Good evening, thank you for inviting us here tonight. Obviously, we didn't plan the previous presentation, but that was a very good lead-in to proper records management and the importance of it. So I hope that at the end of this, you do decide to go ahead and properly update your records program so that you can find vital data like that. We appreciate the opportunity, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we as Records Consultants Incorporated do. Quickly, I'm going to cover the company history, what our project team will be, the scope of our work, and past performance of similar sized projects. We were founded, we're a San Antonio-based company. We were founded with the goal to provide unparalleled service to our customers and provide unique and distinct services, maximizing the needs of our clients. As we continue to grow, our main goal is to provide that kind of service and to adapt to our customers' needs. We feel that the fact that we can do records processing not only from a management standpoint, but also from a hands-on standpoint, provides us the differentiation between us and our competitors. We've got over 20 years' experience providing these services for utility districts, cities, counties, school districts, colleges and universities, and other public and private sector clients. We provide records retention service for about 900 clients in Texas and 5 other states. Some of you may be familiar with the fact that the independent school districts in Texas, there's about 1,050, I believe, is a rough number, and we have contracts with approximately 800 of those 1,050. And we go back and we do the hands-on records processing for those clients. We also, wearing another hat, do fixed asset inventories. We have about 1,300 clients in Texas, and as well as the same type of business in 33 other states.
And our newest service is the appraisal business, and we have about 360 clients in 32 different states. So we're a multi-versed company. We understand the records management process. We do the hands-on processing of records. We understand the program. We understand the housekeeping that's needed, as was pointed out earlier, as I said. Our programs help you find and retrieve documents quickly and accurately. In all cases, we use existing state or other recognized regulatory authority guidelines to properly inventory, catalog, index, store, and prepare for destruction as necessary all inactive records. What we have nicknamed PAC-RADitis is what we want to help you to avoid. Typically in the records area, you keep documents as long as your predecessor said that you needed to keep them. And if you had somebody that never wanted to throw anything away, or what we call a pack rat, it's hard-pressed to find the documents that you're really looking for, wading through all the chaff that you don't need to maintain. What we have found is typically when we go into a location, we can help eliminate 40 to 60% on the initial processing of those records, which I understand that this is not the processing contract. We are looking at the management side of it. But typically, we can help to eliminate 40 to 60% of the documents that have just gone past their service life. You don't need to maintain them. We're fully aware of those rules and regulations. Organizations also have to spend an inordinate amount of money in storing documents that are no longer relevant. I don't know what your current process is, and I don't know what your plans are when that storage facility gets maxed out. If you have to go purchase storage facilities, that is a recurring expense that you probably do not need to incur. Our simple, effective system allows you to rapidly go back and retrieve the documents that you're looking for and get rid of the ones that you're not required to maintain. Litigation is a major concern for most organizations, and the reduction in the volume of records means that that window of vulnerability is lessened. Records that have been disposed of properly and you have the proper audit trail allow you to tell that litigator or that person processing the subpoena that you have legally destroyed those records and you're no longer required to maintain them. Plus, we will recommend the proper maintenance of those documentations to prove that you did in fact keep them properly for the required time. Our staff is very experienced in all facets of our business. Many are ex or retired military personnel, as I am, and we found that having ex-military is a good fit because of organizational skills, discipline, and willingness to travel. We provide criminal background checks on all of our employees, and both our directors of field operations and internal operations, which is my position, both have experience in the field as well so that we can help train and explain the processes to our new hires with firsthand experience.
Are we hiring missionaries?
I'm sorry?
Are we hiring missionaries?
No, sir, I'm not allowed to talk politics or religion. Our staff that we've assigned to this job, Mr. Chuck Nattinger is our president. He's also a South Texan. He was born in Harlingen and grew up in Elsa. I don't know if that's a plus or a minus that I'm supposed to manage that, but I am the project manager. I will be overseeing the operations, and Mr. Pete Pedersen is our senior team leader, and he will be on site as the project coordinator. Chuck has done a wide variety of, held a wide variety of jobs, most of them in the management area, including stints with ExxonMobil from 67 through 86, as well as in the insurance and human resources consulting industries, and he's been with RCI since 2002. He's the one that we would go to talk about our proposed services, our fees, our invoicing, any other contract-related matters. As
As I said, I'm the senior manager for this project. I'm responsible for the overall management of the program. I'm a retired Air Force officer. I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Florida and a master's degree in executive development for public service, which is basically a business administration type of degree from Ball State University. I personally spent 13 years on the field doing records processing, and then the last 5 years since I've been promoted out of the field in my current position as the Director of Internal Operations. My experience, I have worked these jobs. The City of Inglewood we put on the top list here because we went out to the City of Inglewood and we rewrote their entire records retention program, their entire records schedule, the processing, basically everything that you want to be reviewed and updated. We did that with the City of Inglewood. I also have worked for the town of Gypsum in Colorado, town of Minturn, and you can see the others there. The town, the Elko County School District in Nevada, you may have heard that name. They've got a great sense of humor up there. You may have heard the story several years ago where one of the senior pranks was pulled at the Elko High School after graduation. Some of the seniors got a hold of 3 goats and turned them loose inside the building. But before they turned them loose, they spray painted 1, 2, and 4 on them. And the police spent all night looking for goat number 3. Those are great guys to work with. And I also have over 300 jobs throughout the United States. Mr. Pete Pedersen is the one that will be the in-house representative here in town. He also is a retired officer. He was in the Army for 20 years and has been our specialist in records management, while he's been with RCI. Here's a few of the jobs that he's done. Again, City of Inglewood is the top one. Pete and I worked on those together. We've also worked Dallas County Schools, Grayson County Schools, La Jolla, Mission, CISD, Nueces County Hospital, Laguna Madre Water District, to name just a few. The next 5 phases, thank you. The next 5 phases are just a regurgitation from your RFP. We basically said we can do what you asked us to do. I thank you very much for your time and hope for a positive consideration during your deliberations.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mr. Mateo, for a very good presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, this is an action item.
Okay, basically, I've been impressed by RCI.
Do you have any recommendations?
Yes, if you look at the agenda item, we did rank the consultants. And all firms are qualified. When we rank them, I believe CRM and Associates received the top points. But they're, all 3 are qualified.
Let me remind everybody that rankings
Cost-wise, they're all the same, pretty much.
We like to start off with the assessment, and it'll be below, we're talking about, I think about 20,000. And do the assessment first, and then with that, the consultants will give us the recommendations on our next steps. And that we are recommending that it be done in phases. We'd bring phase 1 and the cost and bring that to the board for approval and go through the process. So every time we finish a phase, we bring the results to the board, then we request to go to the next phase and bring that to the board for approval. So at this time, it's only for the assessment. And it's difficult to get the cost for anything beyond that because we do need that assessment to find out what the needs are for the program.
Okay, well, this is an action item. Is there a motion? You have a motion on recommending RCI? Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion?
members of the board. On December 13, 2010, the Board of Directors selected Broadus and Associates to be the owner's representative for the Robindale wastewater treatment plant design, build, renovation, and expansion project. And the owner's representative will perform project management oversight for the upcoming design, renovation, and expansion of the existing wastewater treatment plant. The PUB staff entered into negotiations with Broadus and Associates, and the PUB staff recommends approval of a resolution awarding Broadus and Associates as owner representative for the Robindale wastewater treatment plant design, build, renovation, and expansion project for a contract amount not to exceed of $1,422,814.63.
Recommended action, and your motion by Mayor Ahmad, is there a second? Second by Mr. Garcia. All in favor? For any discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. And just note Mr. Hinojosa abstained. Thank you. Okay, where are we on? Six. Okay, item number 6, consideration approval of a resolution approving proposed amendment to the City of Brownsville pre-treatment ordinance and requesting adoption of the proposed amendment by the City Commission.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. PUB is required to operate a pretreatment program in accordance with sections 402B8 and B9 of the Clean Water Act and General Pre-Treatment Regulations 40 CFR 403. The Environmental Protection Agency has amended the General Pre-Treatment Regulations, and the BPUB pretreatment program was modified to comply with the new required regulatory provisions. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality reviewed the BPUB non-substantial modifications and determined them to be technically complete. BPUB staff needs to proceed with adequate public participation and present the modified BPUB pretreatment program to City Commission for final legal approval. The resolution approves and accepts the proposed changes to the pretreatment ordinance and asks City Commission to approve and adopt the amendments to the pretreatment ordinance in accordance with the attached pretreatment ordinance. At this time, I'm going to have Ann Whitko with Ambiotech. She was our consultant in the project, and she has a presentation and will outline the changes that were made to the ordinance. Have her come up.
Good evening. My name is Ann Whitko. I'm a consultant with Ambiotech Civil Engineering Group. Over the past year, I've been working with Albert Ramiro and the rest of the pretreatment staff to address required modifications to the Brownsville PUB pretreatment program. The modifications to the program were required by the Environmental Protection Agency's streamlining provisions being administered by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, who is the state agency charged with maintaining environmental quality in the state of Texas. The streamlining rule is a revision of Federal Regulation 40 CFR Part 403, which was published in the Federal Register on October 14, 2005. The provisions of the streamlining rule include both required and optional modifications. In short, any changes that are considered to be more stringent than the current regulations are required, and everything else is considered optional. However, any optional provision adopted by the PUB becomes enforceable by the TCEQ. So what this means is that even though a given provision is said to be optional in the regulation, if you choose to adopt it, that said provision in the pretreatment program becomes enforceable by TCEQ. As such, the pretreatment staff determined that it was in the best interest of the PUB to only incorporate those changes that were required by the regulation. Because the PUB did not incorporate optional provisions, the TCEQ determined that this would be a non-substantial modification of the existing program. So what is the streamlining rule? The streamlining rule revises several provisions of the general pretreatment regulations and was created to serve three main purposes. First, to be consistent with the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System requirements for direct discharges to surface waters. Second, to reduce the regulatory burden on significant industrial users, TCEQ, and the PUB without adversely affecting environmental protection. It is important to emphasize that these modifications only affect those industrial users that are determined to be significant. Currently, there are 8 permitted significant industrial users, abbreviated SIUs in the presentation, within the PUB service area. The general rule of thumb for determining whether or not a user is significant is that the major industry that discharges an average of 25,000 gallons per day or more of processed wastewater to the wastewater treatment plant, although other factors can come into play. The third major reason was that the streamlining rule allows the pretreatment staff to better focus resources on those significant users with the greatest potential to affect PUB operations and/or the environment. As previously mentioned, the streamlining rule includes both required and optional provisions, of which the PUB will only be incorporating those that are required. The required modifications that are listed on this slide include 1, the incorporation of slug control plans, 2, modification to the definition of significant noncompliance, and 3, other miscellaneous provisions to sampling and reporting requirements. Each of these mandatory provisions will be further discussed in the next few slides. The first required modification involves the need for the PUB to incorporate slug control requirements into the control mechanisms in the permits. A slug load or discharge is any discharge of non-routine, episodic nature, including but not limited to an accidental spill or a non-customary batch discharge that has reasonable potential to violate any of PUB's regulations, local limits, or permit conditions. As such, certain significant industrial users must develop slug control plans that are reviewed and approved by the pretreatment department. The second requirement in relation to slug control plans is that each SIU must be evaluated for the need for a plan within 1 year of being designated as a significant industrial user. All current SIUs have already been evaluated and all have approved slug control programs in place. Finally, significant industrial users will be required to notify the PUB immediately of any changes at its facility that affect the potential for a slug discharge to occur that could cause interference, pass-through, or in any other way violate the PUB regulations. The second major requirement of the streamlining provision is to modify the definition of significant noncompliance from section 102-375, number 55 in the pretreatment ordinance. This includes additional types of pretreatment standards and requirements. The modification affects chronic violations, technical review criteria violations, and other violations including exceedance of daily maximums, long-term average instantaneous limits, or other narrative standards that have caused or contributed to interference or pass-through and endangered the health of the wastewater treatment plant, personnel, the general public, or the environment. The last set of modifications to the pretreatment program involves various provisions to sampling and reporting requirements. First, all significant industrial user reports must include BMP or best management practice compliance information whenever applicable. BMP compliance is only applicable to some categorical industrial users in specific types of industry. Currently, the PUB has only 1 categorical user that has BMP requirements. Additionally, SIU permits must contain any BMP requirements in the actual permit, and documentation of the compliance with the BMP must be maintained as part of the categorical industrial users and the PUB's record-keeping requirements. In instances where the PUB performs sampling in lieu of a significant industrial user and a violation is discovered, the PUB must perform any required follow-up sampling and analysis within 30 days of becoming aware of a violation. Also, significant industrial users must follow sampling requirements for all compliance reports. Previously, this was only applicable to the baseline monitoring report and the 90-day compliance reports. Additionally, the PUB must indicate the number of grab samples necessary to assess compliance, and non-categorical significant industrial users must report all monitoring results, whereas the previous regulations only made this requirement explicit for categorical users. Non-categorical significant industrial users are required to provide representative samples in their periodic monitoring reports. Specifically, all data collected during sampling must be representative of the conditions occurring during the reporting period and representative of the industrial user's wastewater discharge. Samples should not be taken during parts of the day when there is no discharge of processed wastewater, and standing water should not be disproportionately sampled. The final mandatory provision involves how and when the PUB can designate a duly authorized employee to sign PUB reports. The PUB must now, in writing by the principal executive officer or ranking elected official, authorize the use of a duly authorized employee. So where are we now? Albert pretty much already said this, but just to recap, the TCEQ has already reviewed the modified program and issued a letter at the end of November deeming the modifications technically complete. The program now needs adequate public participation and approval from the City Commission. Upon approval, the City Commission, approval of the City Commission, the PUB needs to submit an official written request to the TCEQ Executive Director for acceptance of the pretreatment streamlining rule non-substantial modification. I can entertain any questions if anybody has any.
Board member have a question? I just have one question. As far as the PUB staff, they can pretty much take care of all the requirements of this?
Yes, very little has changed to the existing program. Most of the changes were things that were kind of inherent in the program before. Now they're being explicitly stated. There are a couple minor changes. The staff's very familiar with them, and I think they're ready to go with it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Williams, any other comments?
No, not other comments. Basically, we need an approval for a resolution so we can take this up to the City Commission and they will actually approve.
I move that we go with staff recommendation.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Morales, Mr. Mendoza, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 7, consideration and approval of the resolution to secure funding and endorsement of the pre-treatment ordinance, Chapter 102, Section 102-371 to 102-443 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Brownsville. Mr. Gomez?
Yes, the BPUB is required to operate a pretreatment program in accordance with Sections 402, B8, and B9, Clean Water Act, and General Pretreatment Regulations, 40 CFR 403. The Environmental Protection Agency has amended the General Pretreatment Regulations, and the BPUB pretreatment program was modified to comply with required provisions. Texas Commission on Environmental Quality reviewed the BPUB non-substantial modifications and determined it technically complete. So after City Commission approves and adopts the ordinance, BPUB needs to submit an official written request to the TCEQ Executive Director for acceptance for the non-substantial modification, along with a resolution of funding / endorsement for the governmental bodies responsible for funding and implementing the pretreatment program. The BPUB has committed $631,705 to fund and implement the BPUB pretreatment program. Attached is the budget that was approved earlier this year that the board approved. We actually just took those exact numbers and put those in here. So the BPUB needs to submit a resolution from the board addressing funding and endorsement of the pretreatment program to comply with 40 CFR 403. Any questions?
Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Mendoza, second by Mr. Morales. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item number 8, consideration and approval of a vendor agreement with the Cameron-Willacy County Community Projects for the Comprehensive Energy Assistance Program. Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, every couple of years, we sign this agreement. This is with the Cameron and Willacy Counties Community Projects. Long story short, the state gives them funding, and if clients, our customers, meet certain criteria, then they can help them pay the bill. And what happens is, then they'll come to us with those vouchers. What we do is, while they have the voucher, we give the customer credit so that they're not disconnected as they go through the process. And then 45 days later, the payment comes to PUB. It can range anywhere from, their budget annually is anywhere from like $150,000 to $500,000, depending on how much funding the state has. So it's a very good thing for our customers. And as far as the terms in the contract, they're standard. They're the same terms that we've had for the last 10 years. So at this time, PUB staff recommends approval of the vendor agreement with the Cameron and Willacy Counties Community Projects, Inc. for the Comprehensive Energy Assistance Program for the period of January 3rd, 2011 to January 3rd, 2013.
Entertain a motion. Dr. Morales, motion. Second. Second. Oscar Garcia, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Thank you very much. Okay, item number 9, consideration approval to provide commercial paper funding for water and wastewater capital improvement projects for the period of October 2010 to December 2010. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, staff on a continuous basis adjust funding requirements from commercial paper for ongoing projects. This item requests your authorization actually to approve a decrease in funding requirements. We're going from $23,056,418 previous quarter down to $22,914,444, a decrease of $141,974. We'll continue to do this under the commercial paper program approvals established in prior years, bring to the board the updates as needed and estimated by staff.
This is an action item. Do I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Garcia, second by Dr. Morales. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any against? Thank you. We have item number 10. Okay, item number 11. 12. 12.
11. We didn't do 11? No, we did. We did 10 and 12.
Item number 11, we have consideration approval to update the Brownsville Public Utilities Board records access and security policy.
Isn't this what we addressed the last time?
No, that was different.
No, that dealt with the city of Brownsville.
Okay.
It's not with the city.
Chairman, members of the board, my name is Nancy Teo. I am the records manager for Brownsville PUB. As a public entity, Brownsville PUB is subject to the Public Information Act and must comply with the rights of the public as outlined in the act. On October 8, 2001, the Brownsville PUB Board of Directors approved the records access and security policy. The purpose of this policy is to ensure that the Brownsville PUB can satisfy public information access requirements while simultaneously ensuring its competitive position. As Brownsville PUB continues to provide public access to its records, it was necessary to establish this policy to ensure consistency in the application of the Texas Public Information Act, Senate Bill 7, and the Brownsville PUB Resolution on Competitive Matters. This policy applies to all requests for information, ranging from those of a general nature and open to the public to those that fall within an exception from disclosure. This policy outlines the procedures, penalties, and charges to provide access to information. Effective September 1st, 2005, Senate Bill 452 and Senate Bill 727 transferred the duties of the Texas Building and Procurement Commission under the Open Records Act to the Office of the Attorney General. The policy is being modified to reflect these changes. Brownsville PUB staff recommends approval to update the Brownsville PUB records, access, and security policy.
So move. I have a motion by Mayor Amata, second by Dr. Morales. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 13. Consideration approval appointment of Brownsville Public Utilities Board Representative to the Southmost Regional Water Authority. John?
Yeah, the board needs the designated board representative for Southmost.
Henry Nakata would be good.
I'll second that. Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Check that motion.
First, motion by Mayor Amata, second by Dr. Morales. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
I wish my commission was this.
Positive energy.
Positive karma, good karma.
Okay,
I love you guys.
item number 14, consideration and possible action on amending the resolution adopting amended rules of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. John?
We usually bring these back at the beginning of the year, if there's anything the board wants to change to the year or times or procedures, now's the time. If you're not ready, we can table it, but normally there's not very many changes, but if there is,
Unless somebody has an objection, I motion to pass it, and if there's something that needs to be changed, we can always bring it back.
yeah, they're in place right now. So all you need is
Reaffirm.
Okay, so just to reaffirm it, we have a motion by Mayor Mata. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Bajosa. All in favor? Aye. Any against? Motion passes. Okay, we have the consent items. We're gonna pull item number 2, and that's for discussion.
Yes, for elaboration of the recommendation.
Okay.
I make the motion to approve 1 through 7 with the exception of 2.
Okay, there's a motion to approve 1 through 7 except for 2. Second by Dr. Morales. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Item number 2.
Good afternoon. This is for consideration approval of the bid award for the purchase of semi-annual supply of pole mount and pad mount transformers. There was just an oversight on my part. On the last item, if the board just selects the 5% rule to the local vendor, then border states would also be awarded the 75 kVA pad mount transformer, the E1521, and the dollar amounts would change. So Texas Electric Co-op would be awarded $106,556. Stewart Irby would be awarded $15,454.53. And Border States would be awarded $96,460.79 for a grand total of $218,471.32. That's with the 5% local vendor rule, if you all decide to go that way. Or you can award it to the low bidder. Texas Electric Co-op would get $160,303, and Stewart Irby would get $52,916.73 for a grand total of $213,219.73.
So we have 2 options here.
The 5% rule or those that.
Or you can award it as the board, or as it's presented on the agenda item.
Oh, the lowest bidder.
Award to local vendor.
If you award to the local vendor, it's an additional $5,251. If you award to the low bidder, then the local vendor would not be awarded any.
The local vendors.
Border States, the one that used to be Bush Supply, Bush Supply,
Oh,
the one that's next to Sea Garden Sales.
Yeah, well, it's good, it's good. They have a huge investment here. It's good for Port State.
Okay.
Why are they changing